anthropology associated with that particular individual.
And a number of scientific words there. Let me start first with one of the things you, in addition to identification and age, you mentioned you look for, I guess, signs of antemortem. Is that correct?
Antemortem trauma in our observations.
Okay. And can you explain when you use that term antemortem trauma in your observations? What do you mean by that?
When you have a healed fracture, so signs like for a broken bone that has healed over time.
So would antemortem be trauma before somebody's death?
Yes.
And do you, in your field, do you engage in what is termed trauma analysis?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us what is trauma analysis?
Trauma analysis for us is in order to aid the medical examiner in rendering opinion on matter and cause of death, is we will look at bone and look for defects in the bone to indicate if a particular tool caused that type of defect. For example, looking at gunshot wounds, looking at sharp force injuries like a blade caused a defect, because that can aid the medical examiner in certifying their death certificate.
And what are your primary duties and responsibilities as a forensic anthropologist working for, and can I refer to that department as a DPAA?
Yes.
Well, what are your primary duties and responsibilities there?
My primary duties are the analysis of skeletal material. I spend 3/4 of my time analyzing skeletal material, whether it's small fragments to entire skeletons that are brought into our laboratory. The other 1/4 of my time is to go on one of our worldwide missions as a recovery leader to do the recovery aspect of that skeletal material.
And as a recovery leader, are you actually leading a team and going out into the field itself?
Yes.
And how many forensic anthropologists are there right now at the DPAA?
We have approximately 40 forensic anthropologists.
And among those are there any archaeologists?
Yes.
And how many of the 40 are archaeologists?
Approximately 10.
And at this point, Dr. Taylor, can you briefly but fully provide us with your educational background?
Yes, I received a Bachelor's of Science in Biology and Anthropology from Juniata College in Pennsylvania. I received my Master's and PhD in Anthropology from the University of Tennessee.
And when did you receive your PhD in anthropology from the University of Tennessee?
2013.
Now, with respect to your time at the University of Tennessee, did you hold any positions within that university in the field of anthropology or forensic anthropology?
Yes, I did. I worked for full-time for 6 years for the Forensic Anthropology Center as their assistant coordinator.
And what were your primary duties or responsibilities as an assistant coordinator?
Was to facilitate short courses, continuing educational opportunities for law enforcement and anthropologists. I assist in research at our outdoor research facility, studying human decomposition, and engaging and helping with the body donation program that continues the research.
Now, the University of Tennessee, you mentioned you assisted with the body donation program. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
The University of Tennessee is very unique in that you can donate your body to science and have it specifically be used for decomposition, time since death estimation, research. And once that research is done, the skeleton's actually cleaned and housed at the university for continuing education for anthropologists and law enforcement.
Now, Dr. Taylor, did you yourself pursue your education and your background as well as work experience? Were you involved with the decomposition research as well as instruction with the University of Tennessee?
Yes, I was.
And when I say instruction, were you an instructor in that area as well?
Yes, I did both field lectures, directed recovery teams, as well as did in-classroom lectures.
And in your current occupation as a forensic anthropologist with DPAA, how many cases have you been assigned to where you would have had to do a trauma analysis on skeletal remains?
Approximately 100 cases.
And while you were an assistant with the Forensic Anthropology Division at the University of Tennessee, did you also receive assignments there involving trauma analysis on skeletal remains?
Yes.
And I'm not sure if I asked you this. When I use the term trauma analysis of skeletal remains, what are we talking about?
The trauma analysis is determining what type of defect caused the injury to the bone.
And when you say defect, would that be markings on the bone?
Yes, it is.
Now, did you also receive education, training, as well as been exposed to research with respect to distinguishing defects caused by animals versus defects caused by humans using tool marks, or not tool marks, using tools?
Yes, I have. That's one of the focuses of the University of Tennessee.
Okay, and can you explain that for us a little bit?
I'm
going to object to the extent it's testifying about what's done at the university in general.
The objection is overruled.
Okay, please tell us.
The research that I helped in, as well as conducted, I looked at distinguishing anything that would affect the body after death. So that's anything that can relate to and have an effect on the decomposition process or the rate and time of death. As part of that, I looked at and helped with a different type of animal induced defects to the bone, markings on the bone, and how we could distinguish those from other types of markings on bone.
And were you, well, let me just move on to this point. Turning your attention to the date March, let me get the correct date here. Turning your attention to the date March 25th of 2014, this is more than 2 years ago, did you receive an assignment from your director with respect to assisting the Maui Police Department in a criminal investigation?
Yes.
And could you please explain what was the nature of that assignment?
I was tasked with doing a specific trauma analysis on remains that were being sent to us by the medical examiner in Maui.
And when you say the remains, are these the skeletal remains you're referring to?
Yes.
Dr. Taylor, I'm going to show you, or first of all, Your Honor, this is going to be showing counsel what's been marked for identification of state's exhibits 403 to 416. And also in 403A and 405A to 414A. And 416A, marked for identification. questions, Dr. Taylor. Was this the first time you have been asked and assigned to assist in a case involving the Maui Police Department?
The first time with the Maui Police Department, yes.
Have you assisted law enforcement prior to March of 2014?
Yes, I have.
And do you recall who that was?
That was with the medical examiner, Honolulu medical examiner.
And how many occasions was that of?
That was only a few times, a couple times.
And were you the person assigned to those
Yeah.
those times with the Oahu medical examiner?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to show you, at this time the state, well, let me do this first. I'm going to show you what has been marked for identification as exhibits 403 to 416, as well as 403A, 405A through 414A, and 416A. And I may approach with these exhibits.
You may.
Hey, Dr. Taylor, if you could first look at the first batch, exhibits 403 to 416. Yes, to 416 marked for identification. Okay, do you recognize the photographs that are shown in exhibits 403 to 416 marked for identification?
Yes.
And how is it that you recognize those?
These are the skeletal remains I was asked to analyze in 2014.
And are those accurate depictions of the skeletal remains that you're asked to analyze?
Yes.
And are those, did you make those photographs a part of your report as well?
Yes.
Are those have those photographs been changed or altered in any way?
No.
Your Honor, at this time, the state will move into evidence states exhibits 403 to 416 marked for identification.
Mr. Arnardi,
Brief logic.
proceed.
Some of those have markings on them, is that correct? They're not just photographs, they
The other ones do.
yeah. No objection, Your Honor.
States exhibits 403 through 416, inclusive, marked for identification purposes, are received in evidence.
And now, Dr. Taylor, can you look at the exhibits, I think it's 403A, and 405 to 414A, and 416A, all marked for identification. And do you recognize those photographs as well?
Yes.
And how is it that you recognize those?
These are the photographs that were included in my report.
Now, those photographs contain, I guess, because those were the photographs that were included in your report, they contain some arrows or markings that you placed on photographs?
Yes.
And did you yourself place it on there?
Yes.
Other than the markings of arrows you placed on those photographs, are they true and accurate depiction of the photographs that you marked as well as used in your report?
Yes.
Of the skeletal remains that were sent to you by the Maui Police Department?
Yeah, the only alteration is the addition of the arrows.
Your Honor, this time the state will move into evidence states exhibits 403A to 4 and 405A to 414A and 416A, all marked for identification.
No objection.
States exhibits 403A as well as 405A through 414A as well as 416A So marked for identification purposes are all received in evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, can you describe how is it that you received these skeletal remains from the Maui Police Department? How did you first come into contact with it?
My first contact was upon them being assigned to me, I checked the case out from our evidence coordinator, Mr. Ben Soria, and the bags were all sealed with evidence tape that then I unsealed and removed the remains.
So none of the bags were opened yet by the time when you actually received the physical skeletal remains.
None of them were open.
And can you tell us how did you go about when you began your trauma analysis on the remains?
When I first looked at the remains, my initial evaluation realized that there was still adhering flesh that would need to be removed in order to allow me to do my analysis. And so I went ahead and I cleaned the remains. Most of the time when we clean remains, we will soak them in a warm water bath, and that helps remove soft tissue. Then I took a soft bristle brush, just like a toothbrush, and I gently cleaned any residual tissue.
In addition to the flesh or the tissue you described, was there also any dirt or debris in the remains?
There was a little bit of dirt that was simply rinsed off using tap water. Besides that, no.
Now, Dr. Taylor, you said you used a soft bristle brush to. Is this after soaking the remains? You used the brush?
Yes.
And the soft bristle brush, would that have caused any markings on the skeletal remains?
No, that's why we specifically use it.
And what did you do after that? After you had removed the soft tissue or flesh, as well as the rinsed off the dirt?
I radiographed, x-rayed all of the remains as part of our protocol, and then proceeded to do my analysis of both inventory, what was present, and then what trauma that I could see on the bone.
Now, when you said you radiographed, what do you mean by that?
I took an x-ray. It's a standard protocol for us, especially when we have cases from a medical examiner's office. We will x-ray so we can get that additional image of everything that we observe.
And when you make observations in your job, are there certain standards you use when you make observations of the skeletal remains other than just with the naked eye?
Yes, depending on the type of analysis, we have references that we must use. We have a standard operating procedure that we must adhere to. In all of our analysis, we have standardized forms and a peer review process.
And prior to submitting your report, did it go through a peer review process?
Yes, it did.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as Space Exhibit. Let me show this first. Space Exhibit 403, which has been admitted to evidence. And Your Honor, permission to publish?
Permission granted.
And may Dr. Taylor step down and use a pointer?
Dr. Taylor, when you step down, there is a pointer around the corner there. You may use that. When you stand up, you'll see it, or it should be there.
Sorry, Dr. Taylor, that's it. Now, if you could make sure you stand to the right of the monitor so the people in the corner can see this. Can you tell us what are we looking at right here? This is 403.
Yeah, starting from top to bottom, this is a vomer. This is part of your septum, nasal septum. These are palatines, right and left palatine and right and left maxilla makes up your hard palate.
Is that the roof of the mouth?
Yes, the roof of your mouth. These are two maxillary teeth that are your top teeth, and then you have a mostly complete mandible with several of the teeth intact. And then down the bottom is unspecified long bone.
And is that the complete inventory that you received from the Maui Police Department, which was sealed in the package that you described earlier?
Yes.
And I'm going to show you stakes, you have permission to publish stakes exhibits. Well, let me just go through it all. Exhibits 403 to 416, as well as exhibits 403A and 405A to 414A and 416A.
All of those you may publish in the order as you find appropriate.
Thank you, Your Honor. And looking at stakes exhibit 404, what are you looking at here, Dr. Taylor?
This is a colored in diagram showing where in the body the identifiable elements are, and this is showing the mandible.
And that's colored in red, is that correct?
That is correct.
And I'm going to show it side by side with states 403A. Did you prepare this as well as in your report?
Yes.
What if anything, did you observe with respect to the mandible as far as fractures goes?
As far as fractures, there are two major fractures that have incomplete fractures going on. There's two major complete fractures, one being to the right side of the jaw that's high up, close to your head on the back corner, and then a complete fracture just off of a midline on the left-hand side.
Now, Dr. Taylor, you mentioned that the mandible or jawbone was almost intact. What parts were missing? And looking at this, let me show you a clear picture of states exhibit 403.
The portion of the mandible that is missing is what we call the ascending ramus and condyle. So it's the portion on the upper right portion of the mandible that connects it with the rest of the skull.
Okay. And can you indicate that on the photograph?
Yeah, it's this portion missing. So this is what's on the left-hand side, and this is what's missing on the right-hand side.
And what's showing on the left mandible is that the complete portion of the
Yes.
ramus?
Yeah, the left side is what's complete and what should be there, and the right side is what's missing.
This would be a good time to break before I get into the physical evidence and stuff.
All right, then we will take our lunch recess at this time, and we can